Ciao e bentornati! Welcome back to Pillole D'Italiano. Today's episode number 92, it's going to be my very first reaction video. I'm usually not much of a watcher, I'm more of a reader, but every now and then some people would ask me what you think about that movie or that Italian TV show, would you recommend this or that? So today we're going to focus on House of Gucci, which is not an Italian movie, but it's shot in Italy. It's about an Italian family, clearly. And my sister, who watched it as soon as it came out a couple of months ago, told me there are a few Italian lines. So I decided to carve out some time, watch the movie, record myself as I was watching it so that you can see my reaction. Well, more than reacting, I decided to unpack those Italian lines to give you a sense from a native perspective of how accurate they are. And so I tried to keep three elements in mind, the three criteria based on which I evaluated those lines, where, first of all, are they grammatically correct? That's like the bare minimum. And this is a great, huge production. So I was not necessarily expecting them to mess it up from a grammatical standpoint. And I have to tell you, they did not disappoint. But you never know. You know, sometimes they don't speak the language, they don't bother calling language coaches or translators, and they might just end up looking on Google Translate. You never know what's happening in productions of TV shows and movies. So I wanted to keep in mind the first criteria, the grammatical standpoint. Besides looking at grammar, I also focus on two main criteria, credibility and pronunciation. By credibility, I mean, from a perspective of somebody who speaks the language as a native, would I be using those sentences in those contexts? That was basically my main approach. Or have I ever heard people use those sentences, those words and those phrases? Because sometimes even when sentences are grammatically correct, they still feel odd to native speakers, if you know what I mean. And then the last element, as I said, is pronunciation, because there is something to be said about the fact that Italy is so diverse. There are so many languages spoken on the territory, the dialects. And even if you speak mainstream Italian, depending on where you were raised and where you grew up, depending on your family of origin, you might speak the language with a different intonation, a different pronunciation. So I looked at how well the actors pronounced in terms of does it sound Italian or not, and also does it sound Italian from the right region. So I really tried to get a bit in depth in my analysis. Well, I really hope that you will enjoy today's episode. I know it's a bit unconventional, and let me know either way. Just leave a comment in the comment section below. Give me feedback. Let me know if you enjoyed it, if you didn't, for what reason. What would be helpful to you to find in a video of this kind the next time that I'm going to make one. If you want to suggest material, TV shows, movies, I have to say that watching an entire movie and stopping and having to comment, setting up cameras and all that kind of stuff, it takes a big chunk of my time, but I will do it for you. So if you have a specific idea, a specific movie or TV show in mind, just send it my way. And without further ado, let's dive into House of Gucci together.
Hoping you'd earn enough money someday to afford the second cheapest item.
Sì, sono le lire. So from an historical standpoint, that's very accurate. The waiter brought some change, and that piece of paper that you saw, that's the old currency that was used in Italy up until 2001, 2002, when we transitioned to euros. So those were lire, 5.000 lire, so 5,000 liras, which sounds like a huge number, but the value is more or less that of $2, $2.50 nowadays. I don't really know this song, but it's very catchy and it feels like original, not made up just for the movie. What was it? La ragazza col maglione. I need to Google it. So I Googled it. The song is an original Italian song from the 60s, released in 1962, La ragazza col maglione. I had never heard of it. not even the singer-songwriter, Pino Donaggio. I'm sure that if my mom or dad were to hear me right now, they would probably be shocked. That's definitely more of a song of their times, but it is historically accurate as well. All right, I have to say that the crazy amount of catcalling was also accurate. I mean, I did not grow up in the 60s or 70s, like in this case, but it's still a thing sometimes, unfortunately, in Italy. And the things that I was hearing them say, they were accurate as well. They didn't feel like made up. Maybe those were Italian actors because the accent was really good. I think that one of them said "Ciao tesoro," which is something that I was able to distinguish. It's basically like saying "Hi treasure" or "My precious," something like that. So. Quanto sei bella or che roba. Yeah, definitely accurate.
Perfect. It's just like mine. Sei bravissima.
So the actor playing Fernando Reggiani is American, but his accent is really good. I mean, the line was super easy, sei bravissima, but the accent was definitely believable. So it turns out that Vincent Riotta, his original name was Vincenzo Ricotta, like the cheese. He's a British actor? Huh. Okay, he was born in England, but with that name, yes, he's definitely Italian, and I don't know if he speaks Italian fluently, but his accent is super good. Oh, that's the entrance. Yeah, that's the main entrance of Università Statale di Milano, where I studied as an undergrad. Exciting.
Would you like to go into this?
Oh no, I can't eat there.
This place?
It's too expensive.
Savini. So they just stopped in front of Savini, which is one of the most expensive restaurants and cafes in Milano, and this is like the hyper center. They're walking through Galleria Vittorio Emanuele, next door to the cathedral, il Duomo, the university that you saw before, that I commented before, is not far from it. So everything is around this super expensive area of town. And so Savini, I want to Google it and see how much a coffee costs nowadays. I don't know back then, but she's saying that it was pretty expensive. I'm curious. All right, I just opened the menu for the restaurant. So caprese, which is just super simple antipasto with sliced mozzarella and tomatoes as a starter. So don't imagine something huge. That's 21 euros. And a risotto alla milanese, so the saffron Milan style risotto, is 30 euros, which probably doesn't sound like a lot compared to the prices that you will find in New York, where I live, for example. When you go out to a restaurant, if it's a good restaurant, you might end up spending that amount for pasta or risotto, but in Italy, that's like a huge amount. So I'm trying to empathize with Patrizia's character.
Grazie.
All right, he just said thank you, right? Grazie, grazie Franco. A little bit on the weak side, I think, because Adam Driver is such an incredible actor that he was just playing in character, and so the way I would expect a typical Italian to say grazie is to really hear every single letter in the word. He almost stopped at grazie, almost making that E silent, but I think it's in character because we're seeing his character being kind of shy and reserved and a bit awkward. So Adam Driver gets a pass.
What does she transport? Garbage? Huh? Mafia!
So I paused here not because he said much in Italian, he just said mafia, but just to give you some background, some context. What Rodolfo Gucci, Jeremy Irons' character, is alluding here is the fact that Patrizia's dad is part of the mafia or works with the mafia because disposing of garbage used to be and still is to this day a very profitable business, especially if you don't do it following the rules, you don't do it properly. And think about not just disposing of regular garbage, but also toxic waste, and do it not properly and just, you know, digging a hole somewhere in Italy or even the rest of Europe and dump everything in there. You take a big commission, you take a lot of money from the government by claiming that you're doing it properly, and then you basically spend zero money in disposing of it, creating all sorts of problems also when it comes to pollution. But anyway, disposing of garbage is something that the mafia took care of for apparently years. This thing seems to be going on since the 70s at least, and this is what Jeremy Irons' character is alluding to. That's why he's outraged.
Commendatore Reggiano. My name is Maurizio Gucci.
Patrizia! Vieni qua!
I've had
So the woman yelling, Patrizia, vieni qua. Super Italian, no doubt about it. Incredible pronunciation. So that's awesome. When it comes to poor Adam Driver, I love him. I like him so much. But I do believe that he just made a super common mistake that English speakers make when pronouncing Italian names with a GI or with a CI and another vowel following. And this is a mistake that would have been so easily, you know, erased. I don't think they had a language coach, an Italian language coach on set, or maybe not working with him specifically. But what happens is that Patrizia's last name is Reggiani. So you see how it's spelled Reggiani. And so GGIA, let's focus on that sound. There is an I there, it's true, but we don't need to pronounce it. The I is there just to tell us that the G right before is a soft J rather than a hard G, so that you don't go around saying Reggiani. There is an I there to tell you that you're supposed to pronounce the G as a G, Reggiani, but you're not supposed to pronounce the I independently, if that makes sense. That's why a super common Italian name such as Giovanni is not pronounced Giovanni, like a lot of Americans or English speakers in general will do. We would say Giovanni. So when you have a G, a vowel and an I sandwiched in between the two, you don't pronounce that I. Hopefully this helps. And hopefully next time they're gonna make an amazing movie like this one, they're going to call an Italian coach. I'm here, I'm available. Well, it's nice to see that he got a job and he's having some fun. And I also love the song Sono Bugiarda. Is that the original one in Italian? Oh my gosh, I'm so ignorant about Italian songs, at least from that era. So I need to Google it. Oh, okay, I just Googled it. So Sono Bugiarda is an Italian version of the famous song I'm a Believer that I knew of. This song came out in 1967, and the Italian artist for this version is Caterina Caselli. Well, for a split second, I thought that Sono Bugiarda was the original version and the I'm a Believer was actually a cover. It's the other way around. Okay, now I know, and you know, we can keep watching.
Benvenuti. Possono il Signore benedire questi anelli, cambiarli in segno del vostro amore e della vostra fiducia.
So I don't know if you were able to catch anything or what the priest said. He is definitely Italian, and he was speaking first to Maurizio and then to Patrizia and then to the whole congregation by saying benvenuto, benvenuta, benvenuti to everyone. And then he was talking about the rings. So may the Lord bless those rings. Possa il Signore benedire questi anelli. And then he invited Maurizio and Patrizia to exchange the rings.
Ti amerò per sempre, per il resto della mia vita.
All right, so this is the first time Lady Gaga is actually uttering a full Italian sentence. She just said, Maurizio, ti amerò per sempre, per il resto della mia vita. Though the sentence was perfect from a grammatical standpoint, and of course when it comes to context, that's exactly what you're supposed to say when you're in church getting married. The way she pronounced those words, the way that they came out of her mouth, did not necessarily feel supernatural. And this could be because she did not work with a coach when she was on set, so maybe she didn't necessarily have anyone being able to give her feedback. That's something that I personally did on a couple of occasions working on set and feeding the actors the lines from, just across the room, basically, where the cameras could not catch me, but I was feeding them lines so that they could hear how my intonation and pronunciation went and replicate right after. And of course, my voice was cut out of the final scene, but maybe this is something that she was not able to do because they didn't have an Italian coach on set. I'm not aware of how the movie was shot. I believe that she's a good actress. So another interpretation, besides the fact that maybe she wasn't really comfortable saying a couple of those words in Italian, but another interpretation might be that she was in character and Patrizia was so overwhelmed with joy by the fact that she was marrying the man of her life that she hesitated in that way. She was savoring the moment, maybe, like a bunch of different other interpretations could be brought up here. And I don't want to say that, I don't want to pass the message that Lady Gaga did a bad job interpreting the role. I just noticed this little moment of hesitation, and so I'm presenting you with two different scenarios, and I'm sure that there are so many others. If I were to speak with the actors, I would be able to get a better sense of what was going on there. And being able to say 100% this is due to discomfort, given the fact that they're speaking in a different language, which, by the way, is not easy at all, or if they were in character. So, I don't know, I'm presenting both options.
Possa il Signore custodirvi e proteggervi.
And the priest just said, Possa il Signore custodirvi e proteggervi. So basically, may the Lord be able to protect you. All right, let me just pause for a second. A lot of things are going on at once in this scene. What I'm paying attention to is the Italian that is spoken, and probably the music is too loud. The characters that are speaking in Italian right now are, paparazzis, so they're not main characters. We're not focusing on them. Their voices come from kind of almost outside the scene. You're not seeing them, you're not seeing their faces, so this might be even difficult for you guys to catch. But the sentences are very correct, grammatically speaking, perfect pronunciation. I do believe that all of these actors, not the main actors, but basically everyone else in this movie is Italian. So yeah, there is one photographer who's saying, Patrizia, da questa parte, sì, brava, brava, così. So he's basically saying, look in this direction, towards this direction. Yes, great job, exactly like that. Brava, brava, così. Somebody is yelling, Viva gli sposi. Well, Viva gli sposi, it's like saying, hooray for the newlyweds, right? So it's like saying, congratulations. And then there is another photographer now. Yes, una foto per favore, una foto. Patrizia, un attimo. So they're begging for one more picture. Una foto per favore and un attimo. Patrizia, un attimo. So a moment, just a moment. They're asking her to wait. A bunch of the same sentences are repeated again. And then I heard auguri alla coppia, so best wishes to the couple. And then guarda da questa parte, so look towards this direction. That's another sentence that I heard. Let's see. Belli, somebody is complimenting their physical appearance because they're beautiful.
Ciao, Aldo. Ciao. Ciao.
Buonanotte,
Buonanotte.
All right, greetings in Italian as they are parting ways. Ciao can be used, as you probably know, to say hi and bye, so perfectly appropriate. Is that buonanotte that leaves me with a question mark? Because it's still kind of light, right? I don't know, it was an afternoon party, so maybe buona serata would have been more appropriate, wishing, as you're parting ways, wishing a good rest of the evening, because there is still light out there, so even if it's summertime, well, I guess in the north of Italy, summertime, yeah, maybe it's still light like that at 8:30 p.m. Maybe the guy was going to bed right after. Buonanotte is usually what you say when you're parting ways and about to go to sleep. That's why I paused a second to think this through, but you know, not a big deal.
Hello, Uncle.
No! What are you doing? Patricia! Oh, my!
Come stai?
My gorgeous niece, Patricia!
All right, that come stai was perfect in intonation, pronunciation, wonderful. It warmed my heart.
But it's time for them to reconcile. That is you and his son. Oh?
The little no thrown in at the very end of a sentence, of a statement actually, but the little no throw in almost with a question mark following is so Italian. This is super typical. So in English, you will have those tag questions. Isn't it? Aren't you? Didn't they? But in Italian, we replace them all with the little no, with the question mark intonation. So it's time for them to reconcile, no? Meaning, don't you think? Wouldn't you agree? It just made me smile. It's so Italian.
Buonasera! I want to introduce you to my nephew.
Just pausing for context. So he's saying buonasera, greeting everyone here, but we can see clearly from the light that it's still daytime outside. Now, this is because traditionally speaking, you could use that buonasera very early in the afternoon, already at 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. You could start telling people buonasera. I remember growing up and hearing my mom using it that way, and I thought that was super weird. Apparently, the buon pomeriggio was not so commonly used back then. When I was little, people started saying buon pomeriggio to place something in between buongiorno and buonasera. But this movie takes place in the 70s, and back then people used to say buonasera in the middle of the afternoon. So it's not weird.
Let me show you. Zio. V.
I love how they sprinkle single, isolated Italian words here and there. So zio, that's an Italian word, uncle. I don't know why they're using it when he's been referring to him as uncle for the rest of the time, but it's cute, it's endearing, and it's pronounced perfectly, like a true Italian. So I am a bit confused. They are at a fashion show at Milano, Versace, and so this is the end of the show when people cheer for the designer who's coming out. We can see him But why is Lady Gaga yelling brava? I'm a bit confused. Maybe she is cheering for one of the models. I don't know. At least I appreciate that they made the distinction between bravo and brava. So if she's cheering the model, being the model woman, then you should use brava rather than just the generic bravo that you hear a lot when you go to the theater in the States, for example. No matter if it's addressing a man or a woman, people tend to just default to the masculine, but Italians will make that distinction. So that's correct. I still don't know why she's cheering the model. Anyway, let's continue. All right, another scene with music blaring, but I can hear in the background a couple of people speaking in Italian, real Italian. So somebody's bringing coffee and just wondering, chi vuole questi caffè? Who wants these coffees? And someone else, one of the women is yelling, non ho voglia di lavorare oggi. I don't feel like working today. It's kind of funny.
Che cazzo succede? Signori, can I help you?
Of course, madam.
So I cannot really repeat the curse that she said as she was walking in, but it was basically like saying, what the heck is happening? I would say that the pronunciation that Lady Gaga had of this curse is not exactly accurate. It felt like she was keeping too much the energy in her mouth, if that makes sense. So one thing that you might have noticed if you've been to Italy or if you watch Italian movies is the fact that Italians tend to put the words out there. We have so many vowels in our words, so everything is so open. Especially when you're cursing, you definitely want to project that type of energy. And so I guess more than the pronunciation per se is the fact that she was mumbling a bit, which is not necessarily what I would have expected when she walked into her own home, founding the Guardia di Finanza, the police, and just being upset. I was expecting her to project the curse. I would say with more energy. Let's just put it that way, but I'm not going to repeat the curse.
Patrizia Gucci,
Roberto Terezzi, man in charge of decoration.
volete un caffè?
No, thank you. Good enjoy.
Okay, volete un caffè? That's what she just said. She offered them coffee. It felt like caffè, it's spelled with two F's, and doubles are super important in Italian. We truly make a distinction between a single consonant and a double consonant. And it didn't feel like she really pronounced both consonants in a sense. Like I felt almost as if she rushed through the F's, saying volete un caffè? Almost closer to a French pronunciation than an Italian pronunciation, if that makes sense. I'm going to repeat the word in French and in Italian so that you can hear the difference. Caffè, caffè. So in Italian, we really linger on that F sound because we have two consonants. Volete un caffè? And I would say that overall, Lady Gaga's pronunciation, I know that she's Italian-American, or at least part of her family is. I do believe, based on the way that she's pronouncing words, that her family of origin came from the south of Italy, because their pronunciation is a bit different from what I would have expected, given the fact that her character, Patrizia, is actually from Vignola. I did some research before, and so that's an area near Modena, Bologna, kind of the center/north of Italy. The pronunciation of words should be a bit different. So I'm hearing a bit of a southern accent that I cannot necessarily place because Italian Americans tend to have this weird common ground accent, which is probably a result of a melting pot of all the different accents and dialects that people coming from different areas of south of Italy brought with them. And so nowadays Italian Americans tend to have a little bit of this flat across the board accent that you cannot necessarily place. And this is what I'm hearing in Lady Gaga's pronunciation of certain words. But as I said, this is not a big deal. It's just me noticing certain things and bringing them up. It's not absolutely a criticism of her acting skills. I'm just bringing to your attention certain things that, as an Italian, born and bred in Italy, I'm able to notice. That's it.
Buonasera, signor Gucci. Ben arrivato.
Thank you, Roberto.
All right, this actor who just greeted Signor Gucci is definitely Italian. The pronunciation was stunning. Buonasera, Signor Gucci, ben arrivato. So good evening, Mr. Gucci, and welcome.
Merry Christmas.
Aww.
Do you like him?
Amore mio, principessa. That was cute and super sweet in the meaning, my love, princess, but also the way that Lady Gaga pronounced it. Yeah, gave me just chills. It was lovely.
Ferre, Armani, and Versace. That's who I said I want to design it.
All right, at least he did not say Versace. But I feel like those R's are a bit too pronounced. There is only one R in Armani and one R in Versace. Therefore, we don't really roll it that much. We don't say Armani, but simply Armani. It's like a touch of a rotated R, if that makes sense. And Versace. I just feel like he overdid it a bit. You know, slight criticism is not a big deal, but I'm here to dot the I's and cross the T's and roll or not roll the R's.
Signor Gucci?
All right, the assassin is Italian too, apparently. Perfect pronunciation. I'm getting a little nervous. I don't like violent scenes, so I think I'm gonna skip this one. I don't think that any more words are going to be exchanged at this point in the movie. Is she writing? Oh, she just wrote the word paradiso in a very shaky handwriting. And paradiso, of course, means paradise, with the date of the murder. Intense. All right, paparazzis here are going bananas. They're yelling, eccola, eccola. Here she is, here she is. Apri, apri. Open what? I'm not sure. They're yelling, those are the carabinieri. They're yelling, non spingete indietro, so don't push and back off. Non vi accalcate. This is another good one that I just heard. Non vi accalcate. One of the carabinieri who was telling the paparazzi basically not to crowd the area, to disperse. Non vi accalcate. And the movie ends with these beautiful notes and the voice of Luciano Pavarotti. So I would say that the Italian that I heard in this movie was linguistically and grammatically correct, very on point when it comes to the different sentences that were chosen in different scenarios. So I never really felt like they had the character say something that didn't make sense for that specific scene. And I only had a couple of corrections to make in terms of pronunciation, but very, very minor things. So I'm glad. I really appreciate it. So what did you think of it? Don't forget to leave me a comment to let me know either way. I truly hope that you enjoyed this episode. If so, don't forget to like it. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe so you're not going to miss any future video. And I will see you in a week. Ciao, a presto!